welcome to the Rag Company podcast. You know me. I'm Dane Hennen. I'm back. Part 2. All right. And to my right, speaking of right, Levi Gates.
Oh, yeah. I'm always right.
And to my left, Anthony Fisher.
I like that Dane hyped himself up in this first episode, to say, hey, it's Dane,
Hey,
I'm
guys,
back.
I'm back. I know you
And we're
missed
like,
me.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
He did a good
exciting.
job. Yeah, it feels good. Feels good to have
It
Dane
does.
back. I like that Josh gave him a big hug when he walked in the door
He
this
did.
morning.
Yeah.
You
It's
know,
very
It
thoughtful.
was nice. It was good to see.
Yeah.
You know,
It's camaraderie.
you were missed. You were.
Aw.
It felt weird not having you around.
Well, thanks.
I
You're
will
looking
say
for
that.
my weird comments all the time, and you're missing out on them.
The sights, the smells, the wondrous things that you do.
I just miss seeing his light on in the office
Yeah.
because, in a dark hallway, I would say Dane is obviously at his desk.
My light's on more than most.
90% of the time you walk by Dane's office, even though you can't see him in his office, he's there.
Yeah.
But this time we knew he wasn't there.
Yeah.
And that was the hard part.
It felt empty.
Well, because we were looking online, like we were watching your stories, and we're like,
Well, I'm glad. I was trying to make them so everybody could keep up because it was too hard
Well,
trying to text everyone
if
to
only
tell
we
them
could
where
be
I
with
was.
Dane,
Well,
hanging out.
I'm used to
Telling
like
stories.
walking into his office and saying something inappropriate,
Yeah.
right? But like I walked in and nobody was there, and I
Well,
said,
I heard you say
"Who's-"
things inappropriately just to the ether.
Yeah, and I'm like nobody can hear me. Levi can kind of hear me down the hallway, but
You,
it's like, it
you
doesn't have
can't
the
hear
same
like a
effect.
half-hearted chuckle from the other room.
Yeah.
Like you can't
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
that when I'm not sitting over there. I'm like,
Like he doesn't care, but I'm glad he
Oh,
listens.
Yeah. It was a bummer not having you here, but
oh,
you're back, and
Well,
you now
thanks.
have a pretty hot car
it's
Yeah.
fun.
that you get to
so
pilot.
Much fun.
So
And it is like piloting. I'll say that much.
there's a long story, a long adventure awaits us. Do we have
Yes.
anything else to cover before
Yeah,
we
let's,
dive into Dane?
Anything
Well,
else?
so
You guys tell me
we
what
didn't talk
happened
about this.
while I
we
was
didn't talk
away.
about this in the podcast yesterday, so if you haven't heard, please.
I haven't
listen to
heard what you
part-
guys said yesterday.
Listen to part 1. We're not going to recap it
No.
because it was quite long. We're going to let
watch
you.
it later.
We're going to let you have the deep dive into this. But we have a lot of guests coming to this week.
Yes.
We've got John Hull from Clean and Shiny UK
Yeah.
flying in today. So when you're
Yes.
listening to this podcast, he will be here this week. We're going to have him on the live Q&A. So you'll have John Hull from Clean and
Yeah.
Shiny. You get to hang out, get to
That'd
talk
be
with him.
fun.
We're excited to have him. He's going to come hang out, check out the place. He's never been to the Rag Company, so
So-
he wanted to see it.
What I love and what I'm looking forward to. So John Hull is a big fan of Monster energy drinks.
Oh, big fan.
So he loves Monsters. He drinks I think the Tiki Punch flavor or whatever it is, that blue can. But he loves Monsters. What I love about John is he drinks the sugared Monsters, right?
He does.
So that is
Commitment.
it's a different style of person, and I like it.
Yeah.
And I think
Likes
that
to
I'm
get
like,
rowdy.
it is a rowdy thing, right? Because you're not only getting the sugar rush, but you're also getting the caffeine rush. And I'm like, that's a guy that likes to party, and
Yeah.
they keep a fridge stocked full of them.
They do.
So I think I'm gonna make an attempt to maybe try to switch him over, or actually not switch him over. I want to introduce him to Bangs because there's also
They may not have bangs in the UK.
I don't think they're banging in the UK. So
Probably not.
that's where the Bangs are another energy drink that have a god awful amount of caffeine. I think like 300 milligrams,
Crazy.
along with a bunch of other workout, friendly
Supplements?
inside them. So
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? I think we're gonna bang it out with John Hull.
That'd be
And
fun. You and John can be banging it out.
well, so they also have an energy drink called Rain, which is actually made
Yeah.
by Monster, which I'm not sure is legal over there either. So we're gonna be banging and raining, raining
Okay.
with John
I
Hull.
like this.
Bang
Sounds
and
like a
rain.
great- It's going to be a great week.
Bangarang.
Bang-a-rang it with Clean and Shiny. It's gonna
And
be
now I
great.
can't decide if I want to think about Robin Hood or Skrillex.
Yeah, Bangarang. Bangarang. I
We'll
like
have
that.
so John's coming. I'm going to
Yeah.
be picking him up from the airport after work. Very excited about that.
Yeah.
And then fun thing, Ivan LaCroix and his
Yeah.
lovely wife Sylvie
Yeah,
And
wow.
is
OptiForce
driving
One.
OptiForce One
Yeah.
to the Rag Company.
Yeah.
So OptiForce One will be able to make an appearance here at the Rag Company. We'll get pictures of it.
It's never
Parked
been
out front.
before.
Maybe we'll park Ragnarok next to it just to show scale, size.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I'll park Jagnarok next to it.
Ooh, Jagnarok. That's a nice name, Dane. I gotta hand it to you. That's pretty sweet. It's pretty sweet.
I don't got anything to go with that. So
And then we're gonna have him here for the rest of the week.
Yeah.
Him and Sylvia are gonna be hanging out. So it's gonna be a full house.
yeah.
Well,
Especially, you guys know we're all in CM at crunch time.
Yeah. We always try not to have guests this time of year, but inevitably it happens anyway.
It just happens. It's what we do.
Yeah. So But it's fun. If we feel like it moves the year along, and before you know it, we're going to be in Florida, sunny Florida, for Mobile Tech
yeah.
before we know it. I mean,
January.
it
Oh my
happens
gosh.
happens super fast. But some other things for this week. Some exciting news. If you guys follow our Instagram, last Friday we released the big news of the IK Foam Pro 12.
Friday the 13th.
Friday the 13th, it came down and came hard.
Yeah, literally it arrived.
It arrived, yeah. So we had a really cool little release video. And I mean, to give you guys the main gist of things, if you couldn't grasp that from the video, but basically this IK Foam Pro 12 now has a Schrader valve, so you can use your air compressor to fill up the sprayer instead of having to pump it. It still has a pump on it, so if you want to pump, you can pump. If you want to dump, you can dump. But you can definitely
Do pump and dump.
you can pump and dump, but you can definitely pressurize it. It's got a new safety release valve on it. The PSI has been cranked up on the whole unit. Roughly 4 bars is where it's at, and
They look so sturdy.
The
too.
hardest thing
It's a
about
beast.
this is a lot of people look at it and go, "Why didn't I just drill a hole, throw in a Schrader valve, and get it?"
my
fill it myself?"
IK9.
You're opening a
My
can of
IK9.
worms.
Well, what people didn't understand is that when you don't design a product to handle
Yeah.
that Schrader valve,
The
in first
tolerances
place,
are different.
tolerances are totally different. That previous IK9 and the subsequent 1.5s and 2s and all that were designed to be pumped and pressurized by the pump itself,
Yeah.
not by an external air compressor.
Yeah.
And that's one of the neat things about the 12 is that it is designed with the
Yeah.
Schrader. So seals are stronger, casing's stronger.
There's seals, and then there's I mean, how do I say this? There is
threading, casing, all that stuff is designed. It's thicker material,
Yeah.
stronger material, able to withstand a greater amount
There's
of
a lot
pressure.
of fail safes
Exactly.
built within that system
Yeah.
as well, whereas you're not going to have that with other ones. So for the people that have modded their IK Foam 9s, we're not saying, hey, shame on you. Do whatever you want to do, but just know that
It's your sprayer. You
you're
do with
you're
it
voiding,
what you
you're
want.
voiding the warranty immediately,
Yeah.
but then you're also having some big safety risks
Yeah,
on
big
that.
safety risks.
And
so
because, I mean, the whole voiding of the warranty thing is because you're introducing all these new risks and issues because it wasn't designed for that. When you put a lot of pressure in something and then you add this area where you like drill a hole and then you add some kind of attachment or fitment, the areas around that, whether you use some kind of sealing or agent or something, it's not designed to hold up to the kinds of pressure that are happening there. It may hold it for a while, and it may
Oh, yeah.
work several times
Right.
before something happens, but on a long enough timeline, something bad's going to happen.
well, and to be honest, I used to do this with the Ace hardware sprayers,
yeah,
landscaping sprayers.
yeah.
I would drill a hole in them, and I would put a Schrader valve.
Yeah.
But you know what happened was I didn't get a long life out of them.
yeah.
They lasted for maybe 6 months to a year if I was lucky.
Yeah.
And that's under heavy use.
Sure.
But there were times they would break or burst or pop or
Yeah.
leak like crazy. What sometimes happens is liquid is then forced up into the pump.
Yeah, it gets places it shouldn't be.
Just because you're adding so much compressed air into it, it's forcing the liquid
It
up
has
into
to
the
go
pump.
somewhere.
And then the
Yeah.
pump is damaged because of that. And now you have something that doesn't hold air anymore. So
But that's the risk you take when you take something and you modify
So we
it.
recommend
beyond
not
factory.
doing that and just buying a new Foam Pro 12 that was
Yeah.
designed to handle.
And
Guaranteed
it
the
is-
safest way.
And it's magic.
Yeah, we
That's
filmed
sweet.
we filmed the big unboxing video and everything you need to know about the Foam 12 today, and it's gonna be released later this week. But basically, I can't emphasize structurally how sound this unit is and how much thought and effort and time was put into every single little individual piece. It really does feel like
Yeah.
such a premium unit, and it really holds true to the name of having the Pro name in the front because it really is that good. And the other big thing too is that this unit isn't something that just came out of nowhere. It's been in production for well over 2 years, and we actually received the first unit close to a year ago, and it was the first prototype unit where they said, "Hey, like we literally made this.
This is the only
and,
one."
Like, yeah, we made this. We want you to try it because you guys here at the Rag Company have been pushing, paving the way for a lot of the IK stuff." And I said, "Okay, cool." So we've been testing it and going through all the different motions and all the different works. And then a couple of months ago, we got the first production model of it, and they've held up great. They've been awesome. We haven't had any issues with them. They're just so nice, and I can't emphasize that how structurally how nice the unit is. And it's not to say that the 9 is bad.
The old
It's
ones are
just-
really solid, but this new one.
This new one is just, they've really gone above and beyond. It's very similar to what they did with the Pro 2 hand sprayers in terms of, the structural quality, the new non-wobble base, all those different things. It just looks really, really
The base
nice.
is one of the things you'll appreciate quickly right off the bat. When you set it down, you're just like, yeah, it's not going to tip over. That's a good start.
And then having a little garage for your wand to be able to slide your wand into
that's a neat
the
little
actual
spot.
thing. Because the old clip, I know me personally with the 9, I never clipped mine in.
Yeah.
I just wasn't.
Well, because you
something I
have to
did.
kind of like fidget with it and get it in there.
Yep.
Functionally, it does exactly what it's supposed to. But in terms of like slick ease of use, it's going to take you a second to like clip it in like a pen holder or something.
So something to look forward to. It's going to be released later this week. We're really excited about it. We think people are going to absolutely love them. Super excited to get those into the hands of people to create some pretty wicked and some of the best foam you'll ever
nice.
create from those
Beautiful
sprayers.
foam. Beautiful foam.
Cool.
All right. So that's basically it for this week. We want to thank you guys for coming out, listening to us, and this is it. If you
been
haven't
fun.
left a comment, please leave
Leave
a
us a
comment.
review.
Leave a review, and I mean that's really all that's
are you
happened.
sure?
Yeah,
Did
that
we-
11
I
minutes.
think we got
That's
it.
a good
I
good
think
run.
we got it.
Yeah.
So, stay
So-
tuned for next
Well,
okay,
before we
yeah.
talk about what I got
well, no,
myself
we're
into.
end of the pod.
Oh, whoops,
podcast
sorry.
stage.
I was wearing this hat. I thought some people wanted to hear
Oh,
about the hats
yeah.
or
Well,
something.
we talked about
or-
them on part 1.
Oh, you did?
We talked about the hats.
Okay. So I guess people don't really need
We have the
to-
new Master of Shine
about it.
trucker hat, right?
We do.
Which this trucker hat is actually worn by Levi J. Gates.
That
and
one
so he-
actually has not
so
been worn by
okay.
me.
So this one right here, he took this on the road. So when Levi
I
was a
didn't-
trucker
I
for
didn't-
5
I
years,
wasn't a trucker.
back in 2002,
That's wrong.
he put a lot of time and sweat and tears into this.
I did
Mostly sweat.
Yeah.
I didn't wear that hat.
Yep. It's basically it's
I'm
something
pretty sure
like,
Hans will buy it.
Yeah.
He's just looking for DNA.
Yeah.
Speaking of happy birthday, Hans.
Yes.
We are recording this on his birthday. Happy birthday to
Happy
Hans
birthday,
Closen,
Hans.
Happy birthday,
TRC
man.
super
Yeah.
fan.
Yep.
So no, we've got like we said, guys, we've got the new hats. They're going to be in the store this week. We've got them in the navy, and then we've got the olive drab green trucker hat with Master of Shine written on the back. Only on the olive green. The navy blue does not have the Master of Shine tag. So
Yeah.
anyway, that was all I was saying. I think we're pretty much
Yeah.
done. So.
Yeah. What I think the next trucker edition hat, the next embroidery we should do on the back is nobody rides for free, right?
Ooh, good
That's
idea.
it's a
I like that.
popular
That's-
trucker
that's
saying.
Yeah, I like that one. Well, Dane knows all about that. He was on a road trip last week or the beginning of this week for a very long time, and it's one of the rules of the road.
It just kept going and going.
Nobody rides for
Yeah,
free, and thankfully it was just him by himself in the car.
Yeah.
But he kept telling us, he's like, if someone needs a ride,
It's
that's just-
cash, it's blank, and it's blank.
Yep.
Nobody rides for free.
Yeah. My
All
dad
right.
taught me that when I was about 8.
Boy, he didn't waste any time.
Okay, so let's go ahead and jump straight into this.
Dane, what did you do?
Okay, that's a great question. As if anybody wants to hear me explain this thing. Yeah.
what
So
we're here
Strap
for.
in, folks.
I'll give
Strap in or strap on?
a quick preface to what led to this. A few weeks ago, I had found online a Jaguar XKR that was for sale on eBay.
Yeah.
And I
You fell in love with it.
reached out to the owner
You yelled,
and
Liz, come look. Look at
Let
this.
him speak.
I looked at a few different ones, and what I could find was, I'm not going to go too far down the rabbit hole, but this is just to explain why I thought this was
Right.
a particularly
Yeah,
good
that's
deal. So, in Jaguar XKRs, the first gens, the ones you think of that look kind of like a catfish, they're those ones that were like driven to the golf club, country club kind of thing. Yes, yawn, please. They a little yawny, but they made an XKR AR version which had a supercharger on it, which made it fun. But it was all like Ford parts from the '90s and stuff.
Yeah.
Then in 2006 in Europe and 2007 in the US, they introduced a new body style, which is the one you see outside now. That one got an all-new aluminum architecture, extremely advanced compared to where it had been, where it really was this huge step up. But they kept the same engine from the previous
Right.
Gen 1 for the first few years of this newer body style. And those ones you can find in the mid to high teens, low 20s price range. That's normal for those, and apparently they're incredibly reliable. So that was something that really appealed to me as someone who's looking for rear-wheel drive V8, and hatchback was like a thing for me. Like, I love wagons and stuff, so I wanted a hatchback, which is hard to find. Corvettes are about it. Yeah. But
something to lay down and
yeah, well, you know, you just want to chill. So then you got that, and I like the practicality. But then in 2010, they introduced the new 5-liter engine into these things, which took it from the supercharged 4.2 that was previous in it, 420 horsepower, bumped it all the way up to 510 stock.
Wow.
Not to be confused with Coyote.
Right, but it actually does, while it's not the same engine, it shares similarities, because Ford still owned them at the time, so they talked. And you will find like Ford running gear in places in it. But any rate, there's a big price difference between those earlier 4.2s and the later 5s. When you see the 5s, you're looking like 30, 40 grand for a halfway decent model. So when you find one that's cheaper than that, and it's in your price range,
significantly cheaper,
like me, it's significantly cheaper. One of two things happens. You look and you go, okay, what's wrong with it?
Right.
Or you go, does this person know what they have?
Right.
Like, you're kind of debating. And you look at the miles and stuff. Anyway, I'll cut through all this stuff. Basically, it was a really good deal.
Yeah.
So
you
looking
put your
at
house
it,
up for sale.
No.
He sold Liz.
Sold Liz.
No.
Sold Callie.
I won't give the exact number I got it for, but basically for the price of like a new Corolla, you can get this thing.
Yeah.
It's crazy
Yeah.
if you're willing to foot the maintenance bill, which inevitably happens. But among higher-end cars, maintenance bills on these are actually not nearly as bad as like a Maserati Gran Turismo or something like
Or a
that, which
Lamborghini.
is just a nightmare headache, you know, if you don't know how to work on these. We can't all be, you know, Freddie Tavares working on Lambos and Mercedes day in, day out.
Yeah.
So I picked the Jaguar very strategically because there's a lot of Ford parts in it, which are cheaper.
Yep.
So
exactly.
it was strategic on my part. But at any rate, saw it on eBay, said, I'm interested in that, because I'd found one locally that was one of the 4.2 models. It was rough, man. It was it was run a little ragged. It looked as cool as this other one for the most part, but just, you know, some stuff I'm like, am I willing to spend that kind of money on something that's not in great shape? So I kept eyeballing this one, and it looked really good, but I was worried there was something wrong with it. So I started messaging the seller.
Yeah.
And he was very responsive, and he gave good answers, which was a good, clear sign of communication. You're like, okay, this might actually work out. But anyway, talked with him for a while, eventually decided, okay, I'm really serious about this. Now I'm at a point where I'm actually willing to travel to see this thing. And whether I buy it or not, I'm that serious about it. I will go see it. And it was in Texas. Yeah. We're in Idaho, so that's a little ways. Well, I set up the whole thing, planned it within an inch of his life as best as I could, like the time frame of everything that was going to work out, hotels, rentals,
use your frequent flyer miles
all
to
that
get
business.
you there?
I used some miles.
Nice.
Just a few. The
Nice.
thing is, you have to buy the ticket first, and then you can use miles to upgrade. So
Ooh,
that
very
was
nice.
that was how I did it.
Ooh,
Got Comfort
nice.
Plus on the way there.
Nice.
Oh, nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was nice. What was less nice, though, was the getting there. I flew on September 11th, which to some people who are superstitious,
I would never do
they're a
that,
little
Dane.
freaked out at
No,
that
I
idea.
wouldn't
But
do it. Yeah.
I wasn't planning to go that day when I initially worked it out. But that's just the time I ended up going, and that worked out fine. But there was a lot of turbulence that day, flying both out of here into Salt Lake City and into Dallas. I didn't think Dallas would be as turbulent as it was. It was like flying into Denver. You guys remember that? It was just nuts. Anyway, got there. Anthony would have hated those flights, but you know, it was all right. Enjoyed the exit row on the second flight, so had it going, which was nice. So yeah, I landed there, and then I had my rental car situation to figure out. I got from Advantage. I worked it on like Hotwire. They had a good deal, so I was like, oh, okay. It was like $32 a day for like a RAV4 or similar.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
Love
all
those
right.
new RAV4s.
Well, I didn't get a RAV4.
Okay.
That was the thing.
Yeah.
They said, is a Santa Fe okay?
Yeah. You're like, that's an
And
upgrade.
I was like, actually, yeah. And you know what? I'm just going to say it right now. The Santa Fe, for what you get, friggin' awesome. That radar-guided cruise control was so good, and the lane departure was so good. I didn't have to touch the pedals in traffic.
So what
it
I'm
just did
excited about-
everything for me. It
So
was
what I'm
awesome.
excited about is checking to see if your parents' Denali's have the radar-guided cruise, and how great that's going to be on our drive to SEMA
I bet that's going
this
to be
year,
nice.
because Dane will be piloting one of those vehicles, and we will have him just set the cruise, and you'll just stick.
I mean,
the back of your dad's bumper.
It is kind of like magnetism with the car in front of you. But that's what I liked about it was it was smart enough, and you just tell it how far away you want to be from the people in front of you, and it does the rest.
Yeah.
But it was so smooth.
It steers itself.
It steers itself.
It keeps you in the lines.
It doesn't steer, but
it doesn't fully steer.
It keeps you in speed contact with the car.
Yeah.
In front of you.
And it's
when
not
Jeff
herky
will
jerky.
Speed up. The other car will speed up.
The reason I liked it was because of how fluid it was.
Yeah.
It was not a and then binary just on off.
Yeah.
Like it actually was very smooth. So at any rate, I'm selling
Very
Santa
nice.
Fe's here. I just really actually
So
enjoyed
next car's
it,
a
and I
Santa
wanted to
Fe.
shout out like people looking for a family
As
car.
soon as the C-Max goes up,
Go
that's
for
the
it.
next one.
Well, yeah. So that was my rental car for the first couple of days, and unfortunately, just prior to flying out to go see this car and all this stuff, the guy who was selling it had a last-minute business emergency. He had to go fly and give a presentation to the CEO of his company in San Francisco. So he had to fly out of Texas, go there, which meant I wasn't going to really have any access to the car.
Had to wait
and I had to wait. But then it was like, I can't do anything until Friday. And, like banks riding on it, all this stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, I got stuff I got to get done if I'm going to buy this. I'm serious. And not a lot of time to do it because when he told me, he said he'd be getting back about 4:30 p.m. to Frisco, Texas, which is where it was. So I was like, pretty tight. But basically, I had the car getting pre-purchase inspected at a shop, a Christian Brothers shop in Frisco,
Well,
which meant
you're as a Christian brother yourself. That was a big deal for you.
I wanted to go with, frankly, just a name brand shop. I wanted to find a place that was like, I like indie shops, but I don't know Frisco, Texas, so I don't know which ones are good and which ones are bad. So
the
I'm like,
company was called
this is the
Christian
case where Dane said, I'll take a chain, please.
Yeah.
So, yeah, chain indeed.
Wow.
But, yeah, so it worked out good. The people there were extremely nice, and they were, like, very invested in me. They're like, this thing's a hot rod. You take care of this thing. Boy, I wouldn't trust half my techs with this thing, but you're lucky you got me. And he's like the main guy. His name's Bobby, and he's
Nice.
running stuff. Super cool guy and giving me a bunch of advice on where I should go eat while I was there. So you get that friendly, just, thanks, Texas.
Southern
It's called
hospitality.
Southern Hospitality.
Yeah, it's hospitality. So
So back to the main story at hand. What did you think of Whataburger?
I had Whataburger, and I enjoyed it for different reasons than I enjoy In-N-Out. It was different. It was good.
It's very different.
But I honestly couldn't compare the two because they were so different. In-N-Out is like streamlined, super simple. You only got a few options, and you either like it or you don't, but it's pretty basic. And you can order off menu and do stuff like animal, whatever, but that's just besides the point. Whereas Whataburger had a menu that was just massive, like tons of stuff. So I tried some different things, but I enjoyed them.
So when
and
you
I
were in
give them
Utah, did you eat at Crown Burger?
No, I'm not familiar with that one.
It's another. So Whataburger is a local to Texas chain restaurant.
I knew I had to go there, so I did.
So it's kind of straddles that line of what you like of a local but chain.
Yeah, I like that.
Because they have lots of locations all over Texas, but they're only in Texas.
Yeah.
And I think maybe Oklahoma, I'm not sure. But Crown Burger or Apollo Burger in Utah is the same way.
Okay.
Kind of
Noted.
a local, but there's many locations around the Utah area.
I'll remember that the next time I'm down there.
So,
but I'll try not to bore the viewers here because I know it's just a lot to explain.
So you got there. You had to wait until Friday.
I had to wait until Friday until
on.
I could do anything regarding the
paperwork,
current
and
owner,
all
the
that
paperwork
kind of
and stuff. But the shop was like, yeah, come on in. We'll show you everything. We'll walk through it with you. Anything you want to know, you just ask us. We'll go through it.
So how long did you have a hotel for?
So I had a hotel in Frisco for the first 2 nights, and then I had to figure out my situation after that.
So then after that, what did you do?
So
Sleep
after
on the
that,
streets or in the rental car?
No. So after that, I basically bounced down to Dallas because I met up with Brandon McComb when I was down there because I had a couple free days, and I was like, yeah, meet up with Brandon McComb and Brian Rose. And it was great. Those guys were super nice. We went out to the Gas Monkey Cafe, so they had like the whole thing, and it was pretty cool out there. They kept calling it Gas Monkey Live. Apparently there's some like music venue and stuff that's just outside. I saw that when we were leaving, but had some Mopar fun, because Big Burly, he is Mopar up and down all around, and maybe revved at a Lamborghini or two while we were down there. That was pretty fun. But no, Brandon's a champ, and he also introduced me to a Nick at Nick's Custom Detailing, and Then also Manny, Manuel Evans of Blessed Touches.
Yeah.
Both really great dudes. Like,
Yeah.
I want to go back, and I was like, I want to take you guys, and we go down there and we make a Texas trip out of it because
So,
they
I have
were extremely excited at the idea
So
of
the
that.
thing that most people don't know about me is I have most of my family is in Texas.
Well, that makes it more convenient.
So I have a lot of family here in Boise,
Mm-hmm.
the majority on my dad's side, but my mom's side is all Texas.
Okay.
So I've got 10 aunts and uncles down there.
Just a few.
Just a few. All mostly concentrated in that Dallas area,
Yeah.
Carrollton, Farmers Branch,
Yeah.
Plano, Fort Worth, all that area. Then the rest are southern Texas, McAllen area, right there, border of Mexico, 13
Yeah.
miles away. So in the Rio Grande Valley, as they call it. So technically, I've got a ton of family. We could go crash wherever we need to if we go down. So
Duly noted.
we could hit up. I've got an aunt in Lampasas that has a farm with bunkhouses.
Mm-hmm.
And my nephew Jonathan listens to the podcast. Him and his buddy are starting a little detail shop out of their new rental property, the rental
Nice.
house that they're at. For going to college, they're going to be detailing some cars. One of their favorite shows to watch is Wash Wednesday.
Aw.
So big fans of the show, big fans of the podcast.
Gotta
So
finish that new one for
so we
people.
could technically go stay at his mom's house and his mom and dad's house and stay there and
Well, that'd be
take out
super
the
fun.
farm. So
Yeah.
a Texas trip could be very easy for us to do.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, one of my favorite things about
and
Texas.
we could hang out with my grandma.
And I
Super fun.
told Dane I would like him to bring me back some, but he didn't. I really wanted some crawfish boil.
Oh, yeah. Brandon
I
said he
am
could make you
a
some.
big fan of crawfish, and
So you can just get those out of the river, right?
so
have
here,
them here in
okay.
Boise.
Yeah. Do you know how to make crawfish boil like they do in the
I
South?
don't. I just know how to get crawdads.
Okay, because here's the deal. They have better crawfish down there. They're bigger. They're nicer.
River crawdads here in
So they're
Boise.
Basically
so
lobster.
they're better. They're basically lobsters down there, and then they put the corn, and then they put the sausage, and they put the potatoes and the onion, and then obviously the juice is really good. And I remember when I went down to New Orleans a couple years ago, I went to like a really like dive like hole in the wall place, and they serve it to you.
Just
and
pour it on the table?
Well, they give it to you in a bag, in like a plastic bag. It's all hot, and then you walk over to a table and lay down a cloth, and then dump it all out there, and it's great. It's like the most fun that I've probably ever had eating food, and I want to have that again soon.
Yeah, when you were sending the messages and I had Brandon there, he was just like, oh, yeah, we could do that. But you seemed like super invested in the
Yeah.
idea. So I was like, oh, he must have had an experience or something.
Don't mess with me, dude. I love that
well,
stuff. It's
And
delicious.
don't mess with Texas. Am I right?
Oh, man. Yeah.
So, anyway, so you got to hang out with Brandon and the boys down there. You got to hang out at Nick's
Yes.
custom detailing.
Got to look around his
Nick
shop.
Chapman's place.
Saw some really cool stuff, including like he had some
You know,
MotoGP
Nick's one of
bikes.
the Nick's one of the greats.
Yeah, he had
So-
some like MotoGP bikes in there that I thought you would have appreciated.
Oh, really?
But yeah, it was super cool. I got some footage of stuff around the shop that'll include in the video I make of my journey. But yeah, after leaving Nick, so we were just there for a few minutes, kind of bounce around, get a look at it, thought it'd be cool. And then we went over to Manny's.
Yeah.
And the reason we were going to Manny's is because we were going to do a late night PPF install.
Right.
And the reason it had to be late night was because by the time I worked the stuff out with the seller in Frisco, it was like 6 or 7. Like it
Yeah.
had been pretty late. I got the stuff dealt with, but then I had to get all the way down to Dallas, which took about 50 plus minutes because
Yeah.
traffic and all
Yeah.
that. So by getting down there, it was like, okay, we're kind of tight on time, but
Yeah.
get over to
Well,
Manny's.
and to remind everybody, you weren't doing true PPF. It was
Right.
enough to get you to Boise.
Right. So
without
that's something I
damaging
want
the
to I want to
cars.
stress to people because someone inevitably will look at the pictures and go, "Oh, I see fingers. Oh, I see bubbles." It's like, guys, this was taking B-roll PPF essentially, and it was stuff they were getting rid of anyway.
Scraps.
And it was basically enough of a roll to cover the hood and the front bumper and maybe the quarter panels if we had time. That was the
which are
goal.
called fenders
So yeah, fenders.
or wings, as they say in proper Jaguar speak.
Well,
Those are front wings.
as you would like to call them, yes. So
Well, now that you're a Jaguar owner, you
Oh,
need to
but-
learn the proper terminology.
well, starting by pronouncing it Jaguar,
Jaguar.
as
your
they say.
front Jaguar wings.
Jaguar.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I got a bunch of footage of us like they're correcting it and then they're going on there because when we looked at it, the paint under the light was just.
Right, a black
it was,
car that has not been.
Yeah,
taken
a black
care of.
car that like the guy had it detailed, but like I don't know what they did. Like
He took it through the car wash.
It was a
and paid for it,
swirly,
and
whirly.
He didn't have it detailed. He had it cleaned, and then he probably took it to a car wash and had them do it because that's the remnants of what's done on the interior. That's what that looks like.
It makes sense.
Traditional interior super clean, as they call it.
Yeah. No, it was
the car
swirly,
wash
whirly on the
interior
outside, and the
detail.
inside was clean in appearance, but like you could see little
Greasy and
things where you're like,
oily, and
yeah,
it's not
some-
fully clean.
Some stuff.
Yeah.
And the steering wheel in particular had some like stuff on it, but
Yeah.
you know, may do. But it was a very comfortable place to be. I'll give it that. But anyway, PPFing at Manny's shop. Manny is such a champion. That guy was so gracious, really nice guy. He was like coaching like a little league team and stuff, and
Oh,
I felt
nice,
so bad
yeah.
like keeping him up late, you know, because he wanted to go, you know, work with the kids in the morning. He's just like, man, it's all good, but if I'm too tired for that, oh, it's gonna be a bummer. I'm like, oh, don't tell me that. I don't want to put you through this. Don't
Yeah.
do it if you don't want to. And he's just like, no, we started, we gotta finish it. So they were really cool. You got it done. Just we were fighting it the whole
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
it was bubbles here, and they fix something, and they go back, and it was just reset.
Well, and the hard part was, like we said, it was a very quick job because it was only designed to get you up here. But
Yeah.
what most people don't understand is sometimes when you don't apply PPF properly, it's very difficult because it doesn't want to stick.
Right.
And so you guys were just trying to lay it on
And they
there
were
enough
talking
to
about it. They're
stick.
like, it would tack when you didn't want
Right.
to,
Yep.
and then it wouldn't tack when you're like, come on.
I need you to tack right here at this
and
point.
it just wouldn't flex the way you want it. And I know everybody's like, just pull out a heat gun, but we were like saving the heat gun for last because it was already, it
Yeah.
was like 80 plus degrees in that shop.
Oh, yeah.
And it was just the air was dense, like everything. Everybody was just sweating on everything.
Yeah.
But you know, get it
You
done.
use your sweat as a lube for the
It's a slip solution.
For the
So
slip solution.
my
yeah.
job was essentially filming everything. I'm not very good at PPF, so I basically volunteered. I will fill up the slip solution and things as
Clean the
needed, mix
pads.
it up,
Clean
do
the
all the
pads.
stuff.
By
Yeah,
hand.
I'm
Best-
pad washer when I'm working with Anthony on shoots, so I
Like you
understand
said,
that role
if anybody
well.
needs Dane to clean their pads, email Dane at
There we go.
Company.com.
I will sit
He'll
over
give
a
you
bowl
an-
and
give
just
you an
need
hourly
the
rate.
pad. Yeah.
Best pad washer this side of the Mississippi.
Yeah.
In the West. So we got that done, and then by that point it was 2 a.m, and I basically looked and I was like, I meant to book a hotel, but we started this and it just didn't work out. And Brandon's like, don't worry about it. Come stay on my couch at my house. You're covered. You're good. I was just like, oh, thanks. You really didn't have to do that.
very
'Cause
nice. It was
I
very
was
nice
thinking
of him.
like, I'll just drive until it's like 6 a.m. and then I can,
Yeah.
find a place. But I was like, no, I want to give him like a proper send off in the video. So I wanted to be able to get some in the morning. So that worked out great.
Yeah.
But no, Brandon's such a awesome dude.
His wife, his kids, they're just
Yeah. Oh, his wife, his kids
amazing
are great too.
people.
Yeah. No, really, really nice. And I had like a few just fun convos hanging out in the driveway, shooting the breeze with him and Brian for a while and stuff
Yeah.
too. Like just cool people, you
Yeah.
know. But any rate, got that. Left Brandon's house in the morning there, and that was the beginning of my journey home.
Okay.
So just getting out of Texas was probably one of the longer ordeals I've
long
I've
drive.
had in my life.
So did you go north to Oklahoma? To
So
Oklahoma City
no,
and then
I was
out, or
deliberately
did you-
avoiding going to Oklahoma because my dad has nothing but bad things to say about the
You know, I've
state
got family
patrol
that
there.
live in Oklahoma.
He basically got pulled over
actually-
once for going 1 mile per hour over the limit, and he just avoided it ever since.
Right, yeah.
So yeah, basically I decided I was going to go to New Mexico, which from where I
you
was in Texas is
It's
a
a very long drive. So the
So-
first night you spent in Texas.
So New Mexico is actually the home of Breaking
Bad.
Bad. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's true.
So,
So-
were your
So
eyes
I
peeled
was-
for any type of
I was
old-
headed for Albuquerque was
So
my
what,
goal, and then I
what
was gonna
highway
go
did
north.
you take
Oh,
out of
God.
Dallas?
I'm trying to remember.
So Dallas to where were you headed?
Well,
Phoenix?
Before I left, though, I went back to Frisco.
Or,
This
I mean,
is the
not
thing.
Arizona, but New Mexico. You
Before
were
I left, I went from Dallas back up to Frisco because before I left town,
backtracked.
that's how I got the engine cover for the car.
Oh,
back.
yeah,
and
you had
that's
to
how
go
I got
back.
an extra key fob, which the
So
owner
that-
had paid
yeah.
$1,000 for,
Right.
to get me an extra key
It's
fob
worth
with the
that.
blade and stuff. And I was like, instead of you mailing those, how about I just come pick them up today?
So that was a 2-hour drive just to pick those up.
Yeah, because there was
Because it
traffic.
was an hour
It
over
was-
and an hour back to your starting point
Yeah.
again.
Yeah, basically got
Okay.
back up there.
So,
So,
got on the
I
road.
I wasn't leaving that part of Texas until probably 12:30 because I also picked up an FM tuner to play my music and
Doesn't
podcasts
have
and
any
stuff from.
outlets or anything.
Well, the
for
problem is
2011?
it has. This is from the era of cars that have iPod integration, but it's that weird MMI.
30
It's
pin.
a 30-pin thing. It is not a normal USB, and it interfaces
have a
only in a
normal
specific
USB.
way. So it has a normal USB too,
Oh,
but it
doesn't
does
connect
not.
to the-
It does not give you music streaming. It only streams voice.
Oh,
So it
very
streams like
nice.
phone calls,
Yeah.
but no music. So I'm like, oh, I got to get an FM tuner. So
Yeah.
I went and grabbed that. I got a dash cam front and back, just because you never know what's going to happen on a trip.
Right, yeah.
And I didn't have one before that, so I'm like, now's the time. So I picked one up from Fry's, my favorite electronics
Oh, we
Did you
know
store.
check
Dane
out?
is
Did you
very
check
excited
out
about
the
that.
chairs in the
Buying the
office chairs
chairs
and
in the
fries?
office chairs
Yes, I
section.
love Fry's. Fry's is my favorite. They're like they're from a
They're
bygone
like
era.
They're like a Home Depot store, but for electronics.
If anybody remembers like Circuit City and CompUSA, like back in the day, Fry's is basically that old
But
school.
bigger.
Like think what you have Best Buy today, but then take it back like a decade in
Like
terms
they actually
of layout
have like
and-
equipment.
Yeah,
like
they have
like
CB
pieces.
radios and
why didn't you get one
stuff
of those?
like.
Should have got one of those. You'd be on the
Oh,
road.
10-4, good buddy.
Could have been trucking along. Hey, breaker.
I mean, I could have. Yeah, that would have been fun.
This is a black kitty cat.
So the question is Dane,
that your
would
handle?
you, if we could have a fries here in Idaho, would you love that?
I would
I think
love
Dane's,
that.
Dane's gonna.
I love
s-
Fries.
Start a
Fries,
petition.
if you're listening, I love Fries.
Do they sell? Do they have like video games there and stuff?
They got everything, man.
So Dane, I'm gonna pull up a map here.
It's
in case
basically
people are
Best
wondering
Buy,
what I'm
but
doing on
with
my phone.
more options and more cool stuff.
And cheaper options. As
And
well,
they're all
right?
cheaper. They're not like Best Buy markup.
All right, so I'm pulling up the map here because I want to see where you.
I don't know where the closest one would be.
Not,
It's somewhere.
not Fries. I'm just looking at the map for how you drove. So,
Okay.
so you were headed out of. So we're gonna zoom in here, right here into Fort Worth. If you can see that, anybody?
So what I was trying to do
So we're
was
into
go
Fort Worth.
from Frisco.
Okay.
I was trying to drive to Amarillo.
All right. Yep. Headed to Amarillo.
So kind of that direction.
Going north to the Panhandle.
Yeah, so I was heading
Okay.
north, but then I was also going to go west from there without touching Oklahoma. So it was
Yeah.
basically like go north and then hook a left.
Okay.
So that was kind of the plan, but
so that was Highway 40, Interstate 40.
Okay.
You were on.
and
So
that took me a good long
cruising
way.
down from Amarillo.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So that took me a good long way. And
that was headed to Albuquerque.
yeah.
Okay.
So I was
now we
trying to
got-
get out there, and I was planning to stop in Amarillo or somewhere in that vicinity.
Mhm.
But as I got closer and kind of saw some of my options, I was like, keep going.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's because of the car and stuff. Like, I understand. Maybe it's not that expensive in reality, but like some people look and be like, oh, that's an
So-
expensive car. And
How long
Yeah.
did it take you to leave Frisco to Amarillo? Was that one day?
I ended up going past it. So where I ended up spending
Okay.
the night was Dalhart.
Okay.
Dalhart. And let me tell you, there was a period before Dalhart that was so remote, I felt like it was never going to end. It
Really?
was
Straight roads?
no windy roads,
Ooh.
pitch black other than the moon up there, and just stars,
Fun.
no lights out whatsoever, and a
So that
sketchy
was-
windy road going through all of it. That I felt like I hope I have enough range because it had been like an hour on this thing, and I was like, I haven't seen anything yet. I was almost on there for 2 hours before I finally
Dane,
saw
you
some
were doing tow.
destination.
You were doing
So
tow
that's-
driving.
That was after Albuquerque?
tow gay.
Or
No,
Amarillo?
no. I ended up not going to Albuquerque at all.
Okay, so you went into Amarillo, and then you headed north?
So, what did you like the vibes of most at this point?
So
Did you
now
like
we're in
Texas
Amarillo.
vibe most,
I
or
can't
New
see.
Mexico
Sorry, guys.
vibes?
There were things in New Mexico that I actually really liked. Like, I thought the landscapes were really pretty.
Did you see any scorpions?
No.
I know
No
that terrified
scorpions.
you are of scorpions.
No
So,
scorpions.
Did you see any armadillos in Amarillo?
That would have been fun, but no. And mostly by the time I got to Amarillo, it was dark out anyway.
Did you have
Okay.
any basically? Did you run into any locusts or any hordes of?
I ran into so many bugs. I had moths
Hmm.
stuck in my windshield wiper blades and in all the vents and everything. Like, it was
Oh, that
caking on
sounds-
good.
Sounds delightful.
Yeah, just
All right,
disgusting.
so from Amarillo,
So,
you could have
Amarillo-
gone north, you could have gone south, you
Well,
could have gone
somehow-
east or west.
somehow I first wound up in a place called Calderon.
Yep.
Cal-
Okay.
Okay, it was
it's
someplace
called-
there was
there's
a.
Wildorado.
No.
There's Bishop Hills.
See, this is the thing. I just go where Google Maps
yeah.
tells me, and I don't
There was
necessarily remember the
Masterson,
places I
Dumas,
went through.
Cactus.
So Masterson's Car Care. So did you?
Dalhart?
So Dane.
Dalhart is where I spent the night at a Holiday Inn
Okay,
that night.
so Dalhart.
And it was
as you
very
can see,
expensive,
folks,
and it felt like it was in the middle of nowhere. Like, there was just
those
nothing
Holiday
there.
Inns are very nice. So,
But the Holiday Inn was great. But they
Yeah.
gave me a disability suite
Oh,
because that was one
very-
of the only ones they had
great.
available. So it was
Yeah.
kind of expensive, but
Okay.
it was huge. Like, the ceiling was
So
twice
how
as
was
high
the
as
bed?
what
took
you normally-
Interstate 385 up to
One of the most
Dalhart.
comfortable beds I've ever stayed in a
Yeah, very
hotel.
ni-
It was
very
very
nice.
nice,
Okay,
actually.
so we're in
Continental
Dalhart now.
breakfast.
Yes.
Wow.
So spent the night in Dalhart.
So I spent the night in Dalhart, and then I got my way out of there.
Did
and,
you head? There's 3 ways you could
so
have gone
from
north.
Dalhart, I basically drove and drove and drove to get to Denver, essentially.
Okay, so from Dalhart to Denver is where we're going to go next.
Mhm.
So into Colorado. My goodness, Dane, this is a very long drive.
Yes, it is. But
All
it was
right.
a very pretty drive.
Okay,
so.
so let me get it here on the thing. Try to pull it up here.
Because I passed through a lot of areas where
Okay.
after Texas, it felt like I was moving state to state
So,
much faster.
87 is my guess. What you took, Interstate
Okay.
87. Made your way up. So here's Dalhart.
Yeah,
Hennen.
because
We
basically
made
I
our
went
way up to
Texas
Texline.
into New Mexico, floated like the upper right corner of New Mexico, and then went up.
Yep. Yeah,
and wound up
clip
in
that upper
Colorado.
corner there.
And I hit the border within, an hour or two of being
Yeah,
in New Mexico.
Raton,
And then, worked my way up
through
until I got
Colorado,
into
up to
Denver.
25.
And I drove through the heart of Denver on the freeway there, which I hit a lot of traffic.
Past Rupes and waved. You
Yeah.
passed it. Did you pass by and wave at the
I thought about
Inter-
going out to like
Omni?
Longmont and all that
the
stuff, but
Omni that you love so much?
I do love that Omni.
Just wave by. Hey, guys.
But like the thing for me was this trip, when you look at it on paper, like, oh, yeah, it's a long way, but you can do that fairly quickly. What you don't account for is just how many construction zones are going on right now.
Oh, right, yeah.
All the 80-mile-per-hour freeways are currently like 45 or 35.
Right.
It was
Maybe
stupid
split,
slow.
too.
And they all like, they have cops watching. They're like, fines double, do anything funny
Right.
business through here, you're going to get in big trouble. It's
Good
like,
reason
great.
to have your radar detector that you bought.
Yeah,
and
which I
installed.
did not have.
Okay.
So that was great. I got a funny story about that I'll get to. I told Anthony earlier.
So drove up through Colorado. Did you stay anywhere in Colorado? Laramie?
I had
or
originally
Colorado
planned.
Springs?
I had planned to stay in Colorado until I realized, I can get to Laramie before it's too late.
Okay.
I'll try that. So, long
So
story short,
Dalhart.
I basically drove from Dalhart through Denver to Laramie.
Okay.
And Laramie is where I stayed that night.
Okay.
And that was on Sunday night.
Okay.
So basically, that whole trip was just going through construction
So
zones. all that
Saturday
business, but
morning, you woke up at
at a Best Western
But
in
Saturday-
Laramie.
but Saturday morning.
Oh, Saturday
you
morning.
woke up from Brandon's. Right.
Saturday morning, yes.
Yeah. Left Brandon's.
Mm-hmm.
That afternoon, drove to Dalhart.
Yeah.
Got to Dalhart. Spent the night at the Holiday Inn.
When I arrived at Dalhart, it was like 2 a.m.
Right. Spent the night again. Woke up early and drove from Dalhart to Laramie.
Yeah.
Was the next day. So
Mhm.
mostly, like you said, some Colorado.
Yeah,
Some
and
part of New Mexico or Arizona.
the
and
South
New
has
Mexico.
its appeal when it comes to landscapes, but things got a lot more interesting to look at once you got to Colorado,
Oh,
for
I imagine.
sure.
I imagine.
Like you finally had like some twisties, some elevation, all that good stuff. It was enjoyable. It was really, and to have a car you can like actually cruise in and really enjoy it, that was stellar. Like
Nice.
love that. Which getting to Laramie late that night, I may or may not have engaged sport mode and
Very nice.
had a little fun on some
Yeah,
very
yeah.
very empty highways.
Yeah.
But what was interesting was just for the visual of it, I had what looked like a full moon. Maybe it wasn't a full moon, but it was close to
It was a full moon that weekend.
and I had that on one side, and then on the other side, as I'm whipping through these
Another
canyons
moon.
to get up to Laramie, there is a hillside completely engulfed in flames.
Whoa.
Like there was a wildfire out there.
Holy cow.
So I had a show, and
Wow.
it was rad. And I was just so bummed because my dash cam, like, basically was doing it had a small SD card and it was wiping over itself. So I was like, oh, I don't have that footage. And I was like, well, I have to keep going. I can't film while I'm driving. This is a bad idea. Out here with like an animal could pop out at any moment. I had to be ready. So I enjoyed it. And I,
Something for the main brain.
Yeah. So it was mostly
experience.
just for me. I enjoyed that experience.
When you're 95 on your deathbed,
I'll
you
remember
can think
that.
about that.
It was just such a cool visual.
Tell your grandchildren.
Driving a Jag.
Tell
through
Liz.
the
Jag, pitch
wildfires.
black outside, not a car around,
Best day of my life.
windy Colorado roads,
Best night
and
of my life,
just
kids.
awesome, clear,
Your
cool
daddy
air.
once saw a wildfire and a full moon while driving a Jag.
And that's when you're.
And it sounds like a dumb made-up story.
Except
Just
for I
the
wasn't there
thought.
yet. I was on my way.
Just the sheer thought of it.
wait, you were there though.
I know. Mind control is crazy. Okay.
That's what it's
At any
called.
rate, so yeah, to say the least, that was an awesome experience, and I did get to stretch the legs of my black cat. So
Nice.
yeah.
Like that. That is some of my best memories, and a lot of people don't know this. Is that I got when I got sober, it was because of a very long road trip like that. A lot of people don't realize when you're on the road for that many days, and it's just you know you can just drive.
You get really introspective.
Your brain can really think about a lot of
Yeah.
stuff. You can do that deep dive into yourself, and my wife and I kind of joke now that sometimes you just need that break. And so for her, it's a quick drive down to Utah. 4 hours where it's just you and a podcast, or you by yourself in the car.
Yeah.
She'll do just a run down to see her sister or go to IKEA or something. Can really do you some good.
Yeah.
So I envy you on this trip.
No,
It's a very
and
fun thing
that
to
was
do.
kind of my logic, and it
I
was
love that area.
it was going to take me back to a simpler time when it was just me driving out late at night,
Yeah.
just for the fun of it. I hadn't done anything like that in a long time, not like to that degree.
Right.
And very late at night in very twisty canyons with just the full moon. Like, it was such an experience. It was really cool, and I was so happy to be doing it in that car. That's what made it so cool.
All right.
But any rate,
So moving forward.
from there.
You've
So I
crossed
got to
into Wyoming.
Laramie.
Into Laramie, Wyoming. You're on Highway 80.
So I stayed at the Best Western in Laramie,
Okay.
and in the morning I went over to the truck center. Is either like a Flying J or a Pilot or something.
Picked up a
Maybe
radar
a Love's.
detector.
So kind of. So here's where it got a little strange.
How did you pick up a radar detector?
Well,
Kind of.
okay. So first things first, I hadn't had any warning messages this whole trip in the car. I was
Okay.
like, yes. So I wake up in the morning, get out to the car, and the first thing I notice is there's a vertical scratch on my door, and I went, and I put that in my Instagram story because
saw that.
can't miss it.
Yeah,
And I could feel
frustrating.
it with my fingernails, so I was like, ugh. And there was a car parked on that side, but there was no one on the other side of me. I tried to pick a spot that was further out in the lot, but a lot of good that did me. Any rate, it's just a scratch, though. It can be dealt with. But any rate, got that, and I pulled over to the truck center.
Yeah.
And when I was there, first I filled up with gas, but I had a warning message that my lights, my tires were low in pressure.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And sometimes you get those where it's just
Depends on
a
the
faulty
temperature of the
sensor or
day,
something.
too. Also
and the
could be
temperature of the day. I suspected it was because Laramie was much cooler overnight than,
yeah.
say, anywhere in Texas.
What were the
had been.
temps?
So basically, I think it dipped down to like in the 30s or 40s that
Oh
night.
crap, that's cold.
Whereas it had been like 70 or 80 during the day in that area. But I was coming from Texas where everything was a lot hotter and a lot more humid. So I'm like, I can see it.
Yeah.
So I filled up. The tires are sitting at 30 PSI when they're supposed to be at 50. So
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
But I filled them up. And luckily it told me which tire. But then I checked all the tires. And yeah, they were mostly in the range. So it's accurate at least. But yeah, it was just that one. Fixed them up. Got them all up to the proper PSI. And as I was finishing up, pulling over, just checking my phone to kind of update some stuff. There was a guy, in a car next to me, and they had like just pulled in, and he was talking to somebody else in the car. I think it was a girlfriend or a wife or somebody. But they were chatting, and then he looks over and he says like, "That's a nice car." And I like rolled out the window. I'm like, "Oh, what's that?" And he's just like, "That got the V12." And I was like, "Oh no, it's not an Aston Martin. It's a Jaguar XKR. It's got the supercharged V8." And he's like, "Oh yeah, no, I used to do restoration work in a shop on old like XKEs and XJs and stuff like that." I'm like, "Oh, that's cool." And he goes, "Oh man, dream car XJ220." He's like clearly like trying to start
Oh,
a
yeah,
conversation. And I'm like, You're speaking my language. And he said XJ220. I'm
Yeah,
like,
that's
oh,
Dane's.
that's my childhood
Yeah.
absolute favorite car. Doug DeMuro released a video on one today, by the way.
XJ220.
It's kind of like
Yeah.
the opposite of Dane's safe word.
which one
It's
was that,
Dane's
Dane?
go word. XJ220.
Isn't that the?
That was their supercar.
That's the ugly one.
Mm-hmm.
I love that car.
That's
Don't
the
call
one.
it
That's
ugly.
the one I sent.
It's
you.
Like I
not
said,
ugly.
again,
Is that not the one that I sent you a picture, or I sent you a picture of that I found at the youth ranch?
It's a beautiful car.
Yeah.
Again, some people it's
You
the
just don't like
opposite-
curvy cars.
It's the opposite of Dane's safe word. It's Dane's go word.
It's my go word.
XJ220.
XJ.
So, any rate, the guy starts chatting me up about that, and I thought, I'd had a few people stop and ask about the car, and it'd been fun to talk to people and stuff.
Yeah.
And he came across as genuine, but he had a certain look
Until he
about
pulled that
him.
knife on you.
He just he had like the Dale Earnhardt shades on,
Okay,
and he
yeah.
looked like maybe he scratched a few too many itches, here and there. Maybe,
But he was a
and-
Jag man.
well, he knew his stuff, so I
Yeah.
gave him props for that. Like once he
Okay.
started off on the wrong foot with the
Sorry to
V12.
digress, but anyway, keep talking about it.
So
Story.
this is why this is interesting. So the guy, he starts talking to me, and I'm like, okay, but I'm also in paranoid mode. I've been in
Right.
paranoid mode ever since I got the car.
Yeah.
When I'm in unfamiliar places, I'm
Uh-huh.
like, I don't know what's gonna happen. So anywhere I go, I lock my doors whenever I stopped for anything.
Yeah.
And just playing it safe. But this guy was talking. It was fine, and whatever. So he chatted for a bit,
But
and then
Dane,
he asked,
the-
"What kind of speeds you get up to?" And I'm like, "What are you, a cop?" Like sometimes people are asking just because they're being friendly, and other times they're just like, "Let's find out a little bit
Well,
more."
one way you can counteract that kind of paranoia
Mm-hmm.
is to wear shirts that are aggressive in nature.
Yeah.
So things like, guns don't kill people, I kill people.
Yeah, sure.
Or
Well, this guy was
things
like,
that, like snitches get stitches. Shirts with mostly like bloody baseball bats. Or
my
brass
point
knuckles.
was,
That's the kind of if you wear a shirt like that, then you don't have to worry about being a little more paranoid. People aren't going to mess with you.
Yeah.
This
or
guy
a
looked
shirt that
like-
says Hell's Angels.
Right. Or
this
a
guy
Hells
looked
Angels.
like he would have pitched for the Mariners in the early '90s.
Oh yeah, it's one of your favorite baseball
Yeah,
teams.
he's a Randy Johnson type.
Okay. Mhm.
So
Tim.
he's
Big
just
unit.
chatting.
He's Tim.
He-
He's a pitcher. He's
He-
a,
he
he's
was
a
a
baseball pitcher.
tall, lanky, skinny guy, but yeah. So, any rate, not the point. Basically, he was chatting me up, and I'm like, waiting. I'm like, what's this leading to?
Yeah.
What's he going
Turns out he's a fan of the podcast.
at? No, unfortunately.
Big fan of the
Basically,
rag company.
turns out he's just like, you know what? It's like 100 miles to the next stop, and I don't have enough money for gas.
Oh!
And I was like, there it is. I knew there was
Ask him
something.
for
I was
money.
waiting for like that thing, because I may come across as like a little goofy sometimes, but
Dane
I'm
had
not.
it. It was
I'm
in
not a
his gut.
dummy.
He knew it.
I
He knew it.
social interactions are something that I
He was
just
"This
spend
guy's
my spare
only
time
talking to
thinking
me
about.
because he wants something.
He sees the car, he thinks, oh, this guy's got money, and of course, naturally, I did that answer
Yeah.
everybody does, which I don't have cash, because everybody knows like the I don't have cash thing, and it's true. Most people don't carry cash these
And he
days.
said, "That's fine. You can just run your card, and I'll pump." some
And
gas
here
in
was
my
the
car."
thing. And so immediately I'm thinking like, okay, so my brain immediately went from, okay, the guy was like relatively nice, knew his stuff, chatting. Now he might be a scammer, or he could really just need gas money. I mean, you have to play that toss up
Right,
in your
yeah.
head. But when you're in an unfamiliar place, talking with unfamiliar people, you just keep your guard up. Not out of any kind of meanness, but just out of a sense of self-preservation. So in this case, I went, okay. And he basically just said, is any chance, he's like, I don't want to impose, but is there any chance I could just have, you could like prepay on a pump and I could just use a little gas to get to the next place, just because, would that be okay? And of course, you know me, I'm too nice about this
And you
stuff.
said
So
yes.
I basically said yes, but here's the thing. What I wanted to make sure was, if he's a scammer, he would have told me to go to a specific pump, because he would have like a skimmer or something on that pump or something. Maybe it was like a concocted plan for like whoever came by that
So-
he could talk to about
So
this.
you walked in and
So
prepaid.
did he have a cell
$10?
phone? Does he have Venmo?
So that's the thing is
PayPal?
I wasn't going to go that far into it, but
Messenger?
basically after he asked me about this,
iPhone and it's an Apple.
after he asked me about the
money.
speeds I got up to, I said, well, I don't have a radar detector on me, so I wasn't doing any funny business trip. I had some fun. I revved it out a few places, but nothing crazy, And so he got it in his head about a radar detector. But then he asked the money question. And so I went over and I prepaid on the pump, and it was the pump I'd already checked to make sure there wasn't a skimmer. Because the problem is I spent too much time on Reddit, and I always see that gif of that person pulling that very convincing-looking skimmer off of a gas pump unit, and it just looks exactly like the thing. So every time I stopped for gas, I'd grab the card holder and wiggle it and see if I could pull it off first, just to make sure. It's a paranoid thing, but it was just making
do
sure.
that? Do you do that with every pump?
Another way folks don't know this, but when you're on a road trip, just use your credit card.
That's what I did. I was using the credit card every single time.
But that's the best way, because this way they don't get access to your checking account.
Right. I couldn't figure out why.
Credit card can prevent
what is it about gas stations being obsessed with you using a debit card? Like, is this a debit card? Yes or no? And it always asks, and I get functionally why they might ask that, but it's like they're trying to get you to use a debit card, and I don't want to use a debit card.
Well, I think it's also because there's a fee associated with
and I get there's
cards.
credit card fees as a business. You do run into
right.
that. But anyway,
so
I paid on this guy's pump,
and
it was
him to leave you alone.
So I paid on the pump and basically talked to him where he was just like, I don't want to use it a lot. Like, just tell me what amount's okay, and I'll do
Put
that.
in $10.
And I basically thought about it.
$10.
Well, I was feeling a little too generous because he had a Ford Escape. It was a newer car, but it was really dented up, and it was just like, okay, he's relatively economical in that thing. So I told him, I was like, you can put as much as you need in that to get to the next station. He's like, I don't want to do that. That's too generous. And this is where I got suspicious in a different way. I'm like, okay, so you don't need money for a full tank of gas. You're willing to take a smaller amount. What's your deal?
He's gonna ask somebody else.
Well, no, but I was thinking like a few steps ahead. So basically, I told him $20. I'll give him $20 for gas, and then he was good on that. But then he went into his car and he's like, I told you I got a radar detector. I'd be more than happy to give this to you in exchange for the gas and stuff. And he had a radar detector. And you know what my brain did? Because I'm Mr. Paranoid about this. I'm like, okay, the prevalence of GPS devices is such now that people could easily give you a dummy item, put a GPS tracker in it, and just track you wherever you go. And if he says, hey, nice car, makes me a little nervous, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So he gives me this radar detector.
I like that Dane
Gone
thought of all
in
this
60
stuff.
seconds.
So I am
too.
thinking of but I get it. They're like, oh, what's the likelihood that you run across somebody in a nice-ish car on a thing and have to plan all this out? Dane, you're being crazy. But it's like, I'd rather be crazy than have my car stolen. So I basically took that radar detector from him. I did not put it into my cigarette lighter socket or any of that stuff. He didn't have a mount for it. That was the other weird thing. He had it glued to his dashboard or something. I was like, okay. And it was actually a relatively nice radar detector. I don't remember the model, but I'll check my footage because I filmed myself with the radar detector and explaining what I was doing and why I was paranoid about it.
Lovely.
And then I filmed myself when I got about 200 miles away. I wanted to lead him on a stray chase in case there was something up.
Smart.
I threw it in a trash can. I filmed myself taking the radar detector and going guys, you can never be too careful. I know somebody's going to be mad at me for wasting a perfectly good radar detector, but I just am not going to risk that. This guy following me home. So I filmed it and I threw it in the trash can. I'm like, there it is. All right. And so it's in a trash can at a rest stop in Wyoming.
My favorite part about this is I know Dane, so Dane for 200 miles is sitting there thinking, oh my God.
Well, I'm going to be
Levi, this is what had me feeling extra paranoid. As I was walking away, he's like, all right, take good care of my car.
That's
and
what
I was,
said?
That's what he said as I was driving away. And it was like, people say that to make conversation the same way that people watching a car in their driveway, they go, next. But this was one where I was like, it could be innocent or it could be nefarious. I don't know.
Fun thing, Dane took all of us out to look at his car today. One of the great things we had was while looking at it, Anthony said to Jeff, how do you like your new car?
I did.
That was very funny, humorous, excited.
And Jeff looked at me. He laughed. I'm like, well, you paid for it.
Yeah,
technically. So
that was very fun,
man.
So anyway, so that was on your way to Salt Lake.
He didn't pay for it. I paid for it.
You paid for it, of course.
Just so nobody thinks oh, daddy's money. It's not that. No. I literally used equity from my home. And
you worked.
Yeah.
Technically, Dane had his house before he had his job here.
He did have his house
before
and so that was equity from Home Depot.
From Home Depot money.
Yeah.
I would roll up to Home Depot and say thank you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you
providing
very much.
So,
So-
yeah, no, that
All
that
right.
was basically it. So yeah, that was kind of my fun, like, ooh, exciting, something dangerous, maybe not, maybe. And you know what?
Dangerous.
Somebody's gonna be like, Dane, you really
Dangerous.
overreacted to
I
this.
can't wait for
It's
those plates,
nothing.
dangerous.
I wish that Dane would have come up through Utah or through Nevada. Through Nevada. I wish he would have came through.
So
the
I can
Indi-
meet Officer Casilla again.
No, the Indian reservation.
Indian reservations would have been nice.
Yeah, the Indian reservation would have been a great experience for Dane.
What also would have been
Oh,
beautiful is a shot of that Jag perched atop the Hoover Dam.
That would have been a good photo op.
Could have sent out the drone.
So
to get a
Dane
shot.
actually had a really good camera on him this entire time.
Yeah.
Didn't take any photos with it.
I didn't
his
even,
phone for all of
honestly.
them.
I didn't even think about taking pictures with it until he told me way later in
which
the
was
trip.
when he was already here in Boise.
Yeah.
No, not quite, but you close.
I was like, that
So you
camera
left
takes
that.
good
You left
photos.
that gas station. You were headed to Utah. You were headed west through
Yes.
Wyoming.
So I
to
hit a
Salt
rest
Lake.
stop maybe
to
100,
Ogden,
150
I should
miles
say.
away from Laramie there.
Yep.
Threw away the radar detector. Took some pictures of the car. I was like, if I don't do it now, I'm just going to do it for me. I'll take the pictures and keep going.
Yeah.
So a lot of my trip was stopping, taking pictures and going. And I get
Right.
that adds time to a trip, but it's me. I'm
Were
going
you-
at my own
Were you
pace.
sending pictures of yourself to
I'm
Liz?
enjoying it.
So that she could remember.
I was
that you
texting
were
her to let her
gone?
know where I was, and she
Excellent.
was excited that I was having a good time.
Good.
That's all she
That's-
cared about.
That's awesome.
And that I got home safe. Those
Yeah.
were the big things.
Good.
So I was on my way to Utah, but I wasn't quite over there yet. But that morning, I had been contacted by Adam Thurman.
Well, so a side note,
Fan of the podcast.
fan of the podcast, Adam Thurman. One of the fun things was Anthony and I were also following along with Dane's trip, sending text messages back and forth to each other.
And I had to do voice to text, which like garbled everything I said.
But one of the fun things was that Dane said, "Hey guys, I'm going to be there. Let's get in. Let's do the podcast tomorrow.
That
It's
was
gonna
such
be
a
great.
mistake.
It's going to be at like 2:00. I'm going to crash here in Laramie, and then I'll be in the morning, and we'll get going." And I said, "Yeah."
See you
I
Tuesday.
I sent a. I just went into my Apple Maps, typed in Laramie, and the drive from Laramie to my house. That was nearly 10 hours. Yeah. And I sent that to Dane, and I said, "I will see you Tuesday."
Yeah.
And
The 10 hours,
Dane was like, "Oh, I
Yeah.
did not notice that. Okay, that's not going to be fun."
yeah, I was under a very different impression
You were
as to
very
how long it would
delirious
take.
too at your time. And
Mostly
you're
I was
sleepy.
just tired. So I was
Yeah.
looking at it, I was like, yeah, on a map, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That should be able to happen. No. So when you said that, it all clicked. And I went, oh.
So now that you knew it was going to take you 10 hours from the time you left
Yeah.
Laramie to the time you got to Boise,
I was
you decided, I'm going to enjoy this drive, the
Yeah.
rest of this drive.
I was a little less concerned about, I have
we
to
knew you
get
weren't
there and do
coming
all
in
this
on
stuff.
Monday.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that freed me up a little bit, and I was able to enjoy it more. So yeah, threw away the radar detector, kept driving, and I got contacted by Adam Thurman that morning. He sent me a message
Yeah.
basically saying like, hey, is there any chance you're coming through like the Ogden area on your trip? And I looked at my map and I was like, actually, yeah, it takes me right through Ogden. And he's
Right.
like, I'm just a little ways away from there. Do you think you could come by? I'd love to just like wipe the bugs off your car before you get home.
Yeah.
How'd you like that? And I'm like, that's really generous offer, Adam. You don't have to do
Yeah,
that.
give
And
it a
he's
quick
like,
spritz.
no, please, like it would be super cool. I was like, well,
Yeah.
absolutely, I'll shout you out and everything. But yeah, basically, I put the plans in place to do that in the early evening.
Yeah.
So that was going to be my mission, but I had to get some lunch before I got there. So I stopped for lunch in a little town called Sinclair, and Sinclair is home of the Sinclair refinery. It looks
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and yeah, so
That's-
big
that whole-
dinosaurs
that-
everywhere.
That whole area, Dane, what you don't know is a large oil producer. Carly and I have some land over there in Duchesne County, Utah.
Duchesne County?
Duchesne County.
Duchesne,
That's all oil country.
Yeah, because Carly is an oil.
She's my oil baroness.
oil
Baroness.
baroness. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what it was.
So we have some land that that her grandfather owned that he rents to the
Yeah.
oil companies.
So when I was driving, I was initially going to pass by Sinclair thinking, oh, I'll stop somewhere else.
Yeah,
It'll be all right.
Dinosaur parks over there too.
Yeah, it looked kind of cool, but I was just like, I'll keep going. And there was so much construction. This whole trip, it's just been nonstop construction zones. So none of the 80-mile-per-hour areas are actually 80. They're like 40, 45 maybe at most. But I ended up going past Sinclair, and then there was still one exit left. And I'm like, I gotta pee. I'll go over here. And I was like, I'm hungry too, so I'll go in. But because I took that further exit, that took me through the town, like what very little town there was.
Of Sinclair.
And I dropped by through the neighborhoods. I saw there was this little open sign on what looked like a house, and I realized it wasn't a house. It was called Sukasa, though, and it was a little Mexican restaurant. And I thought to myself, this is better than a truck stop. Why don't we stop here and take a look inside and just see? And sure enough, I pull up. The parking lot is full. There are people standing outside. There's a line inside, and I'm like, must be pretty good. And I thought, well, I'm not in a rush. Let me, Adam knows I'll get there in a reasonable time.
So
but
4 hours
let me
later.
take a look. So I was in line all of like 15 minutes.
Okay,
It was fine.
nice.
They were moving, so it was okay. But it was popular. But the problem was, like, the reason I was able to get in eating sooner was because I agreed to share a table.
Yeah.
Because it was so busy. There were just like, some people were like, oh no, we'll wait until we can have our own for our family or
So
whatever.
you're able to share a table with a family?
So basically what it did was I was like,
Or another person?
they asked me, are you willing to share? And I said, yeah, sure. So this lady and her 2 kids came in and they said, would you be willing to share?
Lovely family meal.
And apparently they came over from like Rollins or something. They're like, no, this place is awesome. And I'm like, okay, that's a good sign. So yeah, I basically just shared a big round table with them and then proceeded, like, the mom of the 2 kids started asking, like, so what are you doing? What are you doing here? And I was explaining, I bought a car in Texas and I'm driving it to Idaho. And she's like, oh, that's so cool. Well, you're going to love the food here. We came all the way from Rollins just to eat here because this place is really, really good. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, what kind of car is it? And I'm like, oh, no, here we go.
It's that black
And
Jag
like,
out there.
it's that black Jaguar. And then she's just like,
So
oh,
are you with anybody?
no, like she started hitting on me. That was the funny thing was it just turned to that and I'm like, oh boy. And I could see like her kids I just like, no, guys, no.
You're
no.
like, what's wrong with me? I'm a good guy.
No, and then she started talking about how she had an Iraq Camaro and how much
Oh,
she loved her
nice.
Iraq
Yeah.
Camaro that she had back in the
Nice.
day. And then she proceeded to tell me the fastest car I ever drove was a Ferrari. That was really exciting, but I didn't get to drive it for very long because
Did you
the
get her
was
number, Dane?
like, no.
Sounds pretty
I was
awesome.
just like,
Sounds
no.
like a cool
No, but
chick.
she was like way into cars, and
Does
it was
she
just
still
like,
have
oh,
all of her teeth?
yes.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
good. That's a plus there.
Amazing.
So, any rate, had that delicious meal. That everybody was really
With
nice.
a lovely woman and her children.
And I definitely just said, like, happy trails, bye. But that was one of those things where it was just like, oh, geez, yeah, no. The interactions with people have been a real mixed bag on this whole trip. But it was just
That's the
funny.
fun part about the adventure.
Yeah, you don't know what you're going to get.
So do you feel like you become one with the car?
Yes.
Do you feel like that was like the start of an experience of a really happy ownership?
I think Dane's going to own this.
Do you
until he
think that
dies.
everybody should
this
road
is-
trip to get their car?
The first time in a very long time I've had a car where I thought I could keep this very long term. Like, I enjoyed it even more than I thought I would.
Yeah.
I
okay.
really, really like it. And it just ticks all the boxes.
Yeah,
So,
I like that.
so it's really fun and exciting. And I'm just super happy. I'm in love with the thing. So I'm pretty giddy about it.
Yeah.
But,
Just a reminder, folks, the Miata's for sale, as is the Volvo.
Which-
Both of those are
V50
which
are
brings up
rare
the-
design.
rare design. That's what that stands for.
That's what the R is for,
Unicorn.
rare.
Yeah,
So,
both those cars are available. You can pick those
Dane's
up
like,
today.
on a real note, I do need to sell those immediately.
my driveway and garage are full now.
You have 5-car Dane, guys. 5-car
So
Dane here.
is the Jag sleeping in the garage tonight?
Yes.
Miata's outside, so
What
anybody
is
wants to
sitting
break
outside?
into
What
it.
is the outside?
Probably the Miata, but maybe the Volvo because the Miata has a soft top.
So the Miata sits inside with the Jag.
Yeah.
Nice.
Probably.
And the C-Max outside.
The wagons
C-Max
are
is always outside because that's the pedestrian car. Man, this thing's a mess. Any rate, ignore me with that.
that's not
racist
the
peanut
wrapper,
butter
that's
cup.
the
Dane,
actual
is that
chocolate.
a pile of
That's a
Reese's
peanut butter cup.
melt?
All right,
Reese's
so
melt.
after lunch, headed straight to Adam Thurman's house.
Ogden area. Yep.
Okay. Had a great time with Adam and his family.
Wonderful
Adam and
people.
Morgan Thurman.
Super sweet. And on the way
And their daughters.
into Ogden,
Mm-hmm.
there was some kind of wildfire down there too.
Mm-hmm.
So as I was beginning to dip into that canyon,
Are you sure it's not from the flames that the Jag was spouting?
Yeah, unfortunately not.
Oh, okay.
Well, hopefully it's not on fire. There were a lot of smoke. There were very low clouds. It looked super dramatic.
Oh, beautiful.
Super cool. And then you go down into that windy kind of valley.
Yeah, beautiful area.
Awesome. Like,
Yeah.
really loved driving through there, even though there was a lot of construction to get to that point. But it was beautiful going down that way. And then I got to Adam's house. Once I figured out where he was, I drove past his house twice because I didn't realize he has one of those houses where
Flag lot.
it's a really long driveway.
Yeah, it's called a flag lot.
So it's behind other houses.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sitting in front of this house. It's where it said to stop. I don't see it. And it goes, oh, I'm the only one with a mailbox, and it's a really long driveway. And I said, oh, okay. And I pull up, and he's already there, like, filming in his driveway, waiting for me to pull up because he heard me coming. I don't know how you don't at this point. But it was just funny because he was ready to go, and then he was so excited. Like, he was just like, yes, you came by. Like, he was super happy.
Yeah,
and
means a lot.
You know, I really appreciate it. Adam's
Did you
such
bring
a
him
sweet
any
guy.
high chews?
Oh, no, he got me Fritos and a Dr. Pepper. I didn't ask
Wow.
for that stuff, but he had them
Posted
for
that
me.
on his story. Said
was
got a special guest
super-
coming, getting him some road snacks.
Super
Wow.
nice. Just the nicest. And yeah, no, the kids, everybody was great. And his house is bigger than you think.
Yeah.
Like when you get in there, you're like, oh, this keeps going. He goes, yeah, I got out of a townhouse and now I have this. He had a big yard and stuff. Beautiful area. But we did a quick O&R wash and then Bead Maker did. But first he used Bug Off and basically just got all these bugs
First,
off.
he used Levi's favorite.
Well, I was joking. I was just
lacquer
like,
thinner.
lacquer thinner.
Lacquer thinner.
Because he
on all
started
of it.
asking, he's like,
PDF.
I'm trying to figure out, he goes, this is either compound or road paint on this rear haunch on the driver's side. And I'm
there's
like,
a
oh no.
lot.
He's like, do you want me to clay that? And I'm like, you don't have to.
It's very nice of him.
But he did. He went for it anyway. And then I mentioned lacquer thinner and he laughed. But yeah, so we got that washed. And took a few pictures in the driveway. I wished him a very good night and thank you so much. They were going to their parents for dinner.
Yeah.
And then I decided, this is the final stretch. From there
So
to
from there,
Boise.
you were about 4 hours.
It's going to be it. Yeah, it was like 4.5 hours or something like that is what it told me. And it took a little longer than that.
Well, what most people
because-
don't understand is that area is 80 miles an hour, and
Yeah.
you can do 90 if you want.
Yeah, everybody in Utah drives fast.
Everybody uses five.
Yeah,
drives fast,
everybody.
so-
But
except Dane Hennen. Dane is a safe.
I think
courteous
I
driver.
would have been more adventurous in my entire drive on this if
I
I'd already had the car registered in my name in
True.
Idaho.
True.
Yeah.
With a car with
Well,
Texas
once we get
plate and
jagging
all
off
that
on
stuff. It
plates,
was
you'll
just
be able to
basically,
do
it was
that.
like, I'm not going to tempt fate.
Right, yeah.
And go figure, this entire trip never got pulled over
That's
once,
right.
never had any issues, was great. And to
Perfect.
go that long a distance for me and not have like something weird happen,
Oh.
like, oh, a light out and then someone finds an excuse
Well,
to
what
pull
people
you
don't
over,
remember
like-
is Dane bought a car and was literally driving it back to his house and got pulled over.
yeah.
So, again.
And there was a much
very-
shorter distance.
Yeah, very happy
Much
that
shorter.
you made it across 5 states without getting pulled over.
Yeah.
So,
So got that handled. Good luck there. But on my way back from Ogden to Boise, or rather Mountain Home in the case of last night, it was just a squall, like crazy storm I hit in the mountains
very
coming
strong
back
storm.
from. It was bizarre how powerful it was because I hadn't heard anything about a storm being
So-
over this way or anything. Tumbleweeds were shooting across the road
Yeah.
so fast. And I'm like,
well, in that area through, where were you at when you hit that?
let's see. I had
For those of
just
you wondering, he's
just
on-
reached the
he's
northern
headed
part of
north on
Utah.
84.
I probably had about 10 miles to go before the Idaho border when it really started.
Okay,
hitting it
so
hard.
you're right out there, right outside of Tremonton,
Yeah,
headed
yeah.
up north. Most people don't know is that gets to be very flat and open, and so
Yeah.
a lot of wind.
Well, it
normally,
does, yeah.
normally that's just windy, very
Yeah.
windy.
No,
So to
it's
have a
incredibly
storm
windy.
cell
But
hit that
then
spot,
that was
I can't
going
even
through
imagine.
just nuts. And I'd had some like rain, kind of flash.
Yeah, I've had that
rain
happen to me
happen
before in that
the
area.
way through there on
Yeah.
the windy parts of the hilly parts.
Yeah.
But then you get to the part where it's the Idaho border, and then it just kind of opened up. And I thought, oh, this is nice. And then suddenly,
Yeah.
it just torrential
Caught back
downpour.
up to you.
The wind was blowing crazy hard. And it was, I have dash cam footage of that whole part. It was just like, oh, this is exciting at 80 miles an hour and all this.
Yeah.
So I turned on the winter mode thing, and I was actually remarkably surprised at how effective it was. Like managing traction control in the nasty
wet.
conditions on tires that, frankly, I wasn't super familiar with before that trip, obviously.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was a testament to how good that was. But I made it to Mountain Home, and then I decided it's
some
very
food.
late, and I'm hungry. I get that. And then from Mountain Home, I made it to
About
Boise.
45 minutes.
And, yeah, that
About
was
an hour to your
45-minute
house
part.
from Mountain Home.
And by the time I got home, it was like 1:30.
Yeah.
So,
What's fun is I I just like that you're able to enjoy this road trip.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're able to get through all these different states. You're
I had to keep reminding myself,
experience
like,
all these different
Dane,
adventures.
don't ruch. If you want to take a picture, take a picture. If you
Yeah.
want to like stop over here, nobody's telling you can't.
You technically, like you said, what was fun was Dane left and said, don't worry, I'll be back on Monday. And Anthony and I were like doing the math in our head, and we're like, I don't think he's going to make it
Everything
back
I looked
before
at said
Monday.
25-hour drive.
Right.
If you're going flat out,
Yeah.
no stops.
Yeah, and that's hard to do, though.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't realize, like, your body gets cramped.
Yeah.
You get cramped. You got to stop to go to the bathroom. You got to stop to eat. You got to stop for gas. You always got to at least tack on an extra hour or two for that.
Truckers and cannonball runners are about the only ones who really understand the.
Well, and we know you weren't going to be
strain.
peeing in bottles the whole drive.
No.
But yeah, no, I think that's the coolest part is that a lot of people you did something that's very fun, very unique, and just a really fun story for yourself.
Yeah.
Just for your life.
And frankly, I wouldn't do something like that for something like a Camry or a Corolla. No offense.
I can't believe you would say something like that to me while I'm sitting here.
Even an Elantra.
Elantra, I
in
did
the
it for sure.
I did love that Santa Fe, I will say.
Okay.
But
Well, appreciate that.
I wouldn't have done it for a quote-unquote regular car. But with this, it seemed like, okay, that's a pretty cool thing to make a road trip out of. And it was. And I was not... This is the thing that blew my mind. Any other car I've ridden in for that kind of length of time, you get sore, right?
Yeah, and it's lowered.
Yeah, and it's lowered.
And low-profile tires.
Yeah.
So not
and
a lot of
I was
cushion.
shocked. I was not uncomfortable at any point on the whole trip. And like I set the seat settings so I had like a driving around town mode where it's a little higher up so I could see more out. And then I set my cruise seating position
Ooh.
where it basically turns into like a chase lounge.
Very nice.
And you're just like, yep. It was
Very nice.
awesome. So I became one with the car. It was awesome. I loved it. And I look forward to many years of happy ownership.
As of driving, spending that time in that car, what is one of maybe your first modifications or changes you would make to that vehicle? Perhaps a new head unit?
First thing is looking at options for the head unit. However, I think because it's integrated into the climate control and all the other things, it's harder to change those. It's kind of like my Volvo. Where
Check
it's
out
harder to change that stuff.
crutchfield.com and see. They may have options.
So I'll take a peek. But what I did find was a good solution that a lot of owners on the forum said it's called Tune to Air. It plugs into that multimedia interface like your iPod would be able to, and then it's controllable through the unit, but it's Bluetooth. So basically I can run my phone through the Bluetooth, and then it doesn't have the static that an FM tuner would have. So it's perfectly clear, and you can control it with the steering wheel, which, hey, okay.
Yeah,
that's a good
nice.
compromise. And the sound system in it's a Bowers & Wilkins unit. Sounds really good, even with the FM tuner. But I'd say probably the first tweaks to happen would be...
Because, I mean, you just basically lived in that car for 2 days.
Yeah. I'm just going to
3
hit
days.
maintenance items. I'm going to put new oil in it. I'm going to do like the basic thoughtful stuff.
Are you going to take it down to Einstein's, Dane? Because I wouldn't.
Einstein's Oilery?
I would maybe learn
I
how to
could do
change
that.
the
Self-serve.
oil on your Jaguar yourself, so you put the most premium quality
Maybe
oil
put some
into it.
AMS oil
It
or
takes, like-
Royal Purple.
It takes like 0 weight 20.
Yeah, I wouldn't trust Einstein's
Maybe get
020.
maybe get
Did you have a bad experience?
Yes, they stripped my oil pan on my Civic,
Ooh.
and
you mean the nut. They didn't
yeah.
take your whole oil pan off.
No, they stripped the oil, the nut on my oil pan, right? To where they said I had to put a double oversized inside there, and they stripped it so bad I had to go over the stock, skip single oversized straight to double oversized, and it still
Yikes.
didn't fix my issue.
Oh.
So I'll never go back to Einstein's again. But
Very nice.
if
No,
you wanna trust them-
I've had many good experiences.
Dane
there,
is
so.
an Einstein
if you-
Value Club
do you-
member.
If you trust their oil that the recycled oil that they use, then go for it.
I'm a big fan of the Valvoline.
Well, I guess I'll have to go to the AMSOIL guy.
near my
So
house.
yeah, maybe. Any rate, so that's
maybe
been
fluids.
the gist of it. Yeah, just looking after the basic like maintenance stuff. I don't want to go nuts, but it's already modified. It has a modified exhaust. It has a smaller pulley on the supercharger, so actually it's closer to 540 or 550 versus the stock 510. And I don't want to do anything crazy to hurt the relative reliability of it.
Yeah.
So I like it right where it's at. Really.
Throw an intake on that bad boy so you can hear that thing scream.
That is the weird thing
Drill
you
some
notice.
holes in that air
I
box.
drove that 4.2 that was for sale at that dealership. Lots of supercharger noise, like the fun
This one didn't.
whine.
Yeah.
The 5.0s, and I've seen it reported online. Everybody says, "Oh, they pretty much like engineered out all the supercharger noise. Like it was deliberate."
Strange.
And I was like, oh, that's a bummer, to make it more refined or something.
Okay.
It sounds NA, but
Yeah.
it's supercharged for sure.
That's cool.
Anyway, super cool car. Love it. And you too can go out if you just spend enough time researching and looking and find that perfect unicorn car for you. And it doesn't have to be crazy expensive. It can look and feel expensive because it once was. But if you find a good depreciated car that you can actually work on yourself, you can find some pretty cool deals.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I like it.
And that's my lesson of the day.
Well,
Perfect.
congratulations, Dane.
Yay! So,
All right.
All right, Dane,
Guys.
take us home.
I just got back. All right. Thanks, guys, for listening, for watching. We appreciate it every time you do. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the Rag Company Podcast YouTube channel. We want to see those numbers grow. It's been great seeing it go up over time, but, you know, we know you can do better. We know you're out there listening. Just click the button. It does us a favor, and we really appreciate it. Otherwise, look for us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts app. Anywhere you find your podcast, make sure you give us a rating. We also really appreciate that. It helps others find us, and it makes a big difference. We reach more people.
Yep.
So, with that said, guys, let's go.
See ya.
Adios.
See ya.